you very much. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our annual celebration, if you will, of our 9/11 memorial and all of the people who went before us on this day. I would now like to have the presentation of the colors. Would you all rise, please?
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare of our first came through the night, that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave. Oh, there. Oh.
Please remain standing while we retire the colors.
left, free.
Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. Let there be peace on earth, the peace that was meant to be. With God as our Father, brothers all are we. Let me walk with my brothers in perfect harmony. Let peace begin with me. Let this be the moment now. With every breath I take, let this be my solemn vow. To take each moment and live each moment in peace eternally. Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. Begin with me.
Paul A. Aquavito, Jeremiah Ahern, Gary M. Albiro, Grace Allegro Chu, Christopher A. Allingham, Jack Charles Aron, Richard Avery Arroyo, Michael A. Aschik, Michael S. Betts, Maurice Vincent Barry, Paul Frederick Benini, Daniel David Bergstein. Joseph John Berry. Richard Middleton Blood, Jr. Thomas Harold Bowden, Jr. Keith James Burns. Thomas Joseph Cahill. Gino Luigi Calvi. Michael T. Carroll. Alejandro Castano. Christopher Sean Caden. Dorothy J. Chicharo. Gregory Allen Clark. Daniel A. Correa Gunzerman. Georgina R. Corrigan. John Cortano. Dolores Marie Costa. Denise Elizabeth Crank. Daniel Hal Prisman. John R. Crow. Jack L. D'Ambrosi, Jr. Donald Arthur Delafino. Francis X. Deming. Michael A. Diaz Pedro III. Anthony D'Insano, Jr. Brendan Dolan. Stephanie Scott Dorff. Frank Joseph Doyle. Lisa Erin Egan. Fanny Esposito. Ronald Carl Fazio Sr. George J. Ferguson III. Jennifer Louise Falco. Timothy J. Finnery. Lillian Inez Frederick. Donald H. Gregory. John Michael Griffin. Ken George Cruzales. Douglas Brian Cronin. And my two good friends and brother firefighters, Dana Hannon and Lenny Hatton. We miss you, brothers.
Joseph F. Holland III. Uhuru G. Houston. Susan Huey. Alan Keith Jensen. Shashakiran Kadaba. Shari Kandel. Jennifer Lynn Kane. Howard Lee Kane. Deborah H. Kaplan. Hida Kawuchi. Joseph John Keller. Thomas Michael Kelly. Andrew J. Poon Kim. Lucille Teresa King. Bon Sok Ku. Chow Kwan Lam. Nicholas Craig Lossman. Paul Lazinski. Mu Wu Lee. Stuart Sujin Lee. Robert M. Levine. Craig Damian Lawler. Ronald Magnuson. Joseph Daniel Mayo. Daniel Francis McGinley. Thomas Henry McGinnis. Scott Martin McGovern. Damian Meehan. David Robert Mayer. Michael Matthew Miller. Robert Cromwell Miller Jr. Lou Minervino. Dominic N. Makovich. Rajesh Arjun Mapuri. Richard J. Morgan. Ferdinand V. Marone. Marco Matroni Sr. James Donald Munhall. Mark A. Marolo. Charles Anthony Murphy. Frank Joseph Naples III. Joseph M. Navas, Pete Negrin, Nancy Yun Nunn, James Andrew O'Grady, Ronald Orsini, Masuru Osei, Todd Joseph Ohudu, Dominic Lisa Pandolfo, Stephen Bennett Patterson, Angel R. Pena, and John A. Perconti Jr.
Joseph Iscadlo, Daphne Valentos, Joseph J. Pizier Jr., Shreyas S. Ranganath, Ann T. Branson, William Ralph Robbins, Frank Bennett Risen, Richard Resporla, Francis Severio Riccardelli, Paul B. Rizzo, Joseph Roberta, Scott William Roner, James A. Benito, Mark Louis Rosenberg, Richard D. Rosenthal, David Rowe, Michael Sam Phillip, Kaylin K. Summark, Stephen Francis Schlag, Jayesh Shah, Neil Shastri, Agay Sheppy, Craig A. Silverstein, Bruce Edward Simmons, Michael J. Simon, Kenneth Allen Simon, Stephen F. Strawberry, Yoshi Sudiyoma, Gina Stengenberg, Keiji Takahashi, Sal E. Tierra Jr., Richard J. Tedisco, Walter P. Travers, Glenn J. Travers Sr., Anil Shivari Remarkable, Daniel M. Van Leer, John Charles Van der Van, Scott C. Cassell, Christopher James Valonga, Gregory Wackler, Courtney Wainsworth Walcott, Lloyd Michael Wallace, Derek Christopher Washington, Michael T. Foley, Christopher W. Woodencheck, Brent James Woodall, Richard Heron Woodwell, Martin M. Wardley, Adele Agavi Zachary, Robert A. Zampieri, and Julie Lynn Zibble.
We'll now have a moment of silence. And now the playing of Amazing Grace. Today we commemorated one of the most infamous days in American history, September 11th, 2011. A day when nearly 3,000 of our fellow Americans were murdered. As for myself, as so many of us have stories, but as for myself, the day the first plane hit the North Tower, Tower 1, I was on my way to buy sandwiches for a lunch meeting. The executive director of the Port Authority, Neil Levin, and I was a Port Authority commissioner at the time, we were going to have lunch at 12:30 in my office in Hackensack to talk about future plans that we had for the Port Authority. Unfortunately, by that time, the towers had fell and Neil Levin was dead. He was killed because he was at a meeting at Windows on the World, and when the North Tower fell, he was killed. It was a day when 3,000 mothers and fathers, wives and husbands, daughters and sons lost a person they wish they could have spent more time with. But as sad and horrifying as that day was for all of us, it was also a day that Americans showed our true mettle to the world. It was a day of countless acts of heroism and sacrifice by ordinary Americans. From the stairways of the World Trade Center to the fields of Shanksville, Pennsylvania, and in Washington, D.C., men and women proved there's no such thing as an ordinary American. Today, we remember the people who were victimized by hatred at this memorial today. We will honor these victims and their families who have suffered so much for all time. We will never forget, and as long as I'm executive, as the county executive of this county, we will always read their names. Today, as a new building rises from the twisted steel and concrete rubble of the World Trade Center, we ask again to affirm our respect for those who were murdered and for those who gave their lives in the war on terrorism so that we could live in freedom. I especially remember my friend, Frank Carville, who was one of the soldiers killed in that war.
On January 11th of this year, I was unexpectedly thrust into the public spotlight, being the target of the most heinous, despicable anti-Semitic crime on this coast in many a decade. The hatred, the attack, lasted for about 10 minutes, felt like the whole day, but then we received an outpouring of love and support that lasted for months. They were words of support, solidarity, and encouragement. They were loved by God, by our neighbors, and by our country. Peoples from all religions, faiths, and cultures contacted us. Friends and strangers made generous donations so that we could have a surveillance system, improve our lighting. Senators, congressmen, and county executives gave us their personal phone numbers to enlist their aid. We became close friends with chief prosecutors, chief of police, detectives, and the freeholders. The message was clear: we love you, we care for you, and that hatred is not acceptable in this country. Sometimes I envy the octogenarians in my congregation. They've witnessed so many cataclysmic events, so much change in the world and in technology. Yet to be told, in my comparatively short 45 years, I've seen significant change as well. As a young child, I remember a teenage boy in my apartment building, he would grab chains, put them in his knapsack to get ready for the gang fight at school. I remember the riots in Crown Heights and in LA. And I remember a time when it wasn't politically correct, when it was politically correct to make racial jokes and define ethnicities by derogatory abbreviations. And thankfully, things have changed for the better in this country. Dr. Martin Luther King had a vision 50 years ago. It only came realized recently. And I'm thankful that I'm part of this realization.